Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a strange genetic mystery that happens to millions of men as they get older. A piece of their genetic code that's, well, just disappearing.
So, what are we talking about here? It's the Y chromosome. And it turns out, for a whole lot of guys, it doesn't actually stick around for their entire life.
And the numbers here are pretty wild. Get this. By the time a man hits 60, around 40% of them are already showing a loss of that Y chromosome in some of their cells, and it just picks up speed from there.
Yeah, by age 90, we're talking more than half of all men. It creates this fascinating situation called a mosaic. Basically, their body becomes a mix of cells, some that have the Y chromosome and some that don't.
Okay, so a whole chromosome is just vanishing. You'd think that would set off some alarm bells, right? But for the longest time, scientists weren't worried at all. Let's get into why it was so easy to just brush this off.
Just look at the difference here. The Y chromosome is kind of the runt of the litter. It's tiny, has very few genes compared to the thousands on other chromosomes. I mean, it's been shrinking for 150 million years. And, critically, it's the only chromosome a cell can lose and not immediately die. So you can see why scientists thought, no big deal.
So yeah, for decades, the thinking was that this was totally harmless. I mean, the Y chromosome's big jobs were making a person male and producing sperm. So if a blood cell lost it, who cares, right? It was seen as just a weird little genetic hiccup.
But then, things started to change. A whole wave of new data started to pop up, and it pointed to a really shocking, totally unexpected connection. This supposedly harmless genetic loss, it seemed to be linked to some of the biggest diseases we face as we get older.
The first clue? Heart disease. Researchers started finding a link between losing the Y chromosome and having a much higher risk of heart problems. We're talking serious stuff, like deadly heart attacks. That was the first major red flag.
And it didn't stop there. The connection got even stronger. When they looked at men with Alzheimer's, they found that the loss of the Y chromosome was 10 times more common. 10 times! You just can't ignore a number like that.
And the evidence just kept piling on. They found links to different types of cancers too. But here's the real kicker. For men who got cancer, having this genetic loss meant their chances of survival were worse. It pointed to a much poorer outcome.
So this all leads to a classic scientific puzzle, right? The old chicken or the egg problem. Is losing the Y chromosome causing all these terrible diseases, or is it just a symptom of a body that's already sick and breaking down?
Yeah? Which one comes first? That was the big question for researchers. Does being really sick make you lose the Y chromosome? Or does losing the Y chromosome throw open the door for these illnesses to take hold in the first place?
And for a while, it was a genuine debate. On one hand, you have the symptom theory. Y loss is just a sign that the body is old and under stress. But the other theory, the cause theory, was way more direct. It suggested that the absence of this chromosome was the actual trigger for the disease.
So, how do you solve a mystery like that? Well, scientists came up with a really clever experiment using mice to finally get an answer. And this was the smoking gun.
Here's what they did. They took perfectly healthy mice and gave them blood cells that were specifically edited to not have a Y chromosome. And guess what happened? The mice started developing heart problems. That was it. It pointed straight to causation. Losing the Y wasn't just a symptom, it was the cause.
This discovery was a complete game changer. It forced the entire scientific community to rethink everything they thought they knew about this so-called useless little chromosome. Turns out, it's been hiding some incredibly important jobs right under our noses.
So what are these secret jobs? Well, far from being genetic junk, the Y chromosome has genes that actually help suppress tumors. It helps regulate the activity of other genes all over your body. It even plays a role in your immune system. I mean, this is a major player that we have just completely underestimated for decades.
The whole story is just such a great reminder, isn't it? That even the smallest, most ignored parts of our own genetic code can have these massive, totally unexpected consequences for our health. And it really makes you wonder, what other huge secrets are just sitting there in our DNA, hidden in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered?